I'm making low relief arched shops, so stay tuned and all will be revealed. Well, good evening everyone and welcome back to Piccadilly. Now, if you saw my last episode, you'll see that I've made these 3D printed arches and the plan is to turn them into realistic low relief shops. Welcome back. So you can see in front of you I've got all these arch elements off the layout again, and there has to be an order in the way I do these. These are all going to be covered with a brick paper, so don't worry about the splodges of black paint, they'll all get covered up. But I've obviously painted the windows back and front, and then you can also see that they are glazed too. Now you might think, well, why have I glazed them this early? Well, the reason being is because I'm going to put a spacer piece in, which is these. So that is going to effectively sit behind, kind of like that. And then, so when it'll be like a mini back scene goes in behind there, it will give the impression of depth because it'll be a good 5mm set back further. So hopefully the pictures won't appear to be just stuck to the window, but have that little bit of an air gap between them. That's the idea anyway. And what I did was, when I come to stick this on, this acetate, I used Yoo-hoo. I tried not to use super glue because apparently it can go a bit white in place and cause the acetate to cloud up a little bit. So by doing it with Yoo-hoo, it's actually bonded very, very well. And then I just put a couple of clips on either side just to hold it on. So my next stage now is to get all these pieces stuck on, and I'm going to do it to all of them because obviously they're going to be at different depths. If I don't do that, even these ones, so that you never see them, it's got to be because of the depth that I need to bring it out so they're all in line with each other. I also need these for the shape of the actual tunnel portal when it goes through the tunnels. Probably have 3 or 4 on those, and we can take it from there. All right, I'll catch you. Right, welcome back. So I've been on the internet and found some interiors. This just happens to be a Lidl, but to get the amounts that I'm going to need, because the Lidl is going to be 5 of these sections, so I need quite a long strip, if you like. So what I've had to do is take what I could find and then chop it up, manipulate it, squash it, stretch it and overlap it and all that sort of stuff. So there is quite a lot of duplication in there, but by the way you sort of move the bits around, you may or may not realise it. And some of these light functions at the top here, you probably wouldn't notice them anyway, to be honest. It is going to be hidden kind of behind this part. Now, one thing I didn't realise, if I can try and show you here, by putting that kind of like that, hopefully you can see you end up with this like white strip at the very bottom of the image between the actual picture and the door frame. So what I'm going to have to do is the last 5mm of the image, fold it up so it actually appears that the shop carries on into the door frame, if you like. So anyway, I will get that done. I'm going to stick this to a piece of card, by the way, get that done and then stick it on, and I'll show you the first one shortly. Kind of like that. Now, one of the stupid things I did on this one is I didn't make that piece quite wide enough. Obviously these are gluing areas down here and that is barely enough. So I'm going to have to put some tape, I think, over the end of that, just to hold it on. I will put some probably Yoo-hoo, to be honest. But the other thing I had to do is, if you notice, the bottom edge of that piece of card has been coloured black with a black pen, and it just helps to disguise against the edge of the door frame. But I think that will work. And obviously these pieces here are black to help give the element of depth. So I think I'll get that glued on, and I'll show you when I've done it, but I think that's going to be absolutely fine, and yeah, quite pleased with that. Right, there we go. So that's now glued in. As I said, the bottom has been folded up, and what I've done with this particular one is to put some tape over the back. Obviously when I do the rest, i.e. with these pieces, I will make sure that they go the full width of that. I might still put some tape on it, it just gives it a bit of added strength, I suppose. But yeah, I think if the rest turn out kind of like that, I'll be happy, and there's no reason why they shouldn't. Catch you shortly. Welcome back. So I just want to show you this. This is the first section, and I'm actually rather pleased with that, to be honest with you. So obviously covered in brick paper, which I'll show you in a minute, and decided to put a darker brick paper across the top of all the arches that are shops, and just to make it a little bit different, emphasize the arch part of it as well. But also I think it makes the Greggs sign stand out quite nicely. I don't know whether you can make that out. That is also 3D printed, which I am amazed came out very, very easily. In fact, I did this in Tinkercad, and there are 3 fonts available in Tinkercad, 3 or 4, and this was the first font that I chose, thinking it's never going to be right, and I'm never going to get the one I actually want, and you know, it's going to be a bit of a nightmare trying to match it up. But actually, I couldn't have asked for anything more perfect, to be fair. The squares are really easy to do as well. So I just printed it off in grey, painted the whole thing the dark blue, and then literally dab on the white and dab on the orange. Well, I painted those white first as well, then dabbed on the orange to make them a bit brighter. But I'm very pleased with that. And obviously the top's been washed down as well, and there's a bit of walling at the back there because obviously that bit will be seen. So there we go. So what do I do to get that? Well, first of all, as I showed you before, I painted this bit black, but actually I needed to paint the string, and I don't know whether you can make it out, but there is actually a stepped effect in there, done deliberately. Although these are not actual arches as such, I mean real arches, I mean they are kind of made up. They are inspired by what I've seen, and I thought I quite like that feature there. The reason otherwise it would have been a very tall blank section there, so it just adds a little bit of extra interest, I think, as well. And then the 2 string lines running across, and then a very pronounced arch course. I'm not sure, there is a name for that, I can't remember quite what it is, but that's all painted first. Now after that, I prepare the piece of paper that I'm going to use, and I always make it a little bit wider than I need. You can always cut it back, and the reason for that is because you can probably make out there, I did want to have the window frame sort of seen, if you like. So there is all that going to be stopped short. So what do? Just check that I've got the right bit. Yep, that's that bit there. It's the bit that I've prepared for it. So I'm just going to take a glue stick because it's thick and it gives a filling effect. So anyway, what I'm going to do then is I'm going to put this in there. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. Put it in so I get the line that I want first, because that is quite important to get that parallel like that. And it might just move a little bit, so I'm just going to scrape it in with my fingernail, and then I'm going to go in with the back of the scalpel blade. And these types of implements are quite important in this, because you need to be able to get the paper right into the gaps. Now before I fold it, I'm going to wipe it. So wipe over the edges and tease it round. That one probably didn't show very well, but you get a nice flat, sharp line by doing that. And then again, the same thing, just with your fingernail slightly over the edge, kind of like that. I hope you can see what I mean. Just tease it round, tease it round, tease it round, tease it round until you get what you want. In fact, that needs to go up a bit there, doesn't it? It's not quite up against the string course. It does need to go up. And this is one of the beauties of using the Pritt stick, because it's thick and it gives you slidability. It does feel there's not a lot of glue in there. So what I'm going to do is just peel back the scalpel, got a bit on the end, and just put it in like that. And now I bring that over the top like so and press it into the corner. But you can see that's gone on rather nicely. And the most difficult bit is obviously doing this stepped effect. But again, once you've got your strip going across the top, all I did was back of the scalpel, just follow it along. Just keep going in like that and just keep pressing it up against this edge, press it up against this edge, keep going along like that. It does take a little bit more than this bit, but at the end of the day, that's all you're doing. I thought I'd just show you the fact that they're all covered now. Every one of them has already been done now in the brick paper, just like that. And you can see that all the shop elements have got this. I mean, it is a brick paper, but I suppose in reality that would be a wood, a stained wood above the window here. So I think you can get away with that. But you might remember in a previous clip I showed you that, and again I am quite pleased with the way that's come out. But I'm also going to have a Liddle, which is that one. There's two of those, and there's also, there will be two of those as well where the sign sticks out. The main reason is that one is the central one, and there are 5 elements if you remember, and then these are the 2 that go either end, and there's another blank piece going in the middle there. So what's this with just a plain window in it? Well, this bit's going around the back of Liddle, and you'll just see it next to the tunnel just underneath Glossop. So that's Liddle, but I've also done a Starbucks. Now I'll show you that bit first, and there's 2 parts to this. Now this second bit I'm really pleased with it. I didn't think it would do it, but that is 3D printed on the filament printer. So I don't know whether you can make that out. I'm really pleased with that. And in the same way, when I did that, there's 4 fonts, and you'll never believe it, but obviously I've got, it's not exact, but it's pretty close. I'd say I can get away with that. And the Starbucks, again, it's not exact, but it's pretty close. And I think to the untrained eye, I think those will be absolutely fine. So I'm really pleased with those. So we've got the Starbucks sign above the door, and then we've got the logo above there. And if you can see in there, that's the whole kind of restaurant matched up in there. Right, so you might think my next job is then to stick each of these on, and they are all labelled, so I know which one goes where. But I think I need to put the pavement in here first, which will raise those up ever so slightly. And so as I did before, I've just got a piece of A3 paper cut into pieces and then scored a line all the way around the edge. I'll now cut that off and then 20mm in all the way around, and then I'll end up with a big long strip which I can then mount onto a piece of card and take it from there. Right. So that's the pavement gone in now. You can see it's all been painted up the same colour as the base colour. That obviously needs lightening up by quite a lot and weathering process, and then the pavement details go in after that. See you in a bit. Welcome back. So we start moving on to the pavement detailing and painting and all that sort of stuff. So as you can see now, as I did from the previous video, all that has now dried, but it is very much the wrong colour. So if I take you back to Google Earth, you can see that that particular pavement is kind of reddy, even yellowy in places. It seems a bit yellowy around here, a bit reddy. I mean, obviously a general grey colour, but it's obviously got all those particular tones all within it. Now, just to remind you, this is Piccadilly Gardens inspired, so I am taking the ideas from what I see here and then using it to create this. But notice the distinct colour change between the road and the pavement. I've got the iPads just there to hopefully gauge the right colour. And as I said, I'm not going to worry about the road. I'm just going to go straight over it. And it even doesn't matter about the back scene part of it now anymore either. Into the curb edge. And there's one last little bit here. Pavement can come along there, but I'll do that later when I do the big bit down the middle. I'm going to go in with some brown. And I'm literally just going to dab it. So there's bits of yellow, bits of red, and even tiny little bits of black. I'm literally just going to dab it on so you can see all the different colours in there. Or hopefully you can anyway. So a bit more brown. And I think it's a case of I just need to keep adding a bit more brown, a bit more, you know, even maybe a tad of red, to be honest, and blend that in quite well. In fact, let's do that. Let's find some red. So there it is. The buildings are in. They're not glued, but they are literally just placed. And you might work out that some of them being held up by bits of blue tack. You can see this one's not level by any means, but it will be. That's no issues at all. I have come across a few issues whilst I'm doing it. Minor, but nevertheless need addressing. There's a gap running underneath each of the buildings, and that's across all of them. So once it's glued in, and I've done the detailing work on the pavement, and that needs to be next. You see, there's one fell over there. So once I've done that detailing work, get these glued on, and there'll be a case of running along the edge with a bead of Pritt stick. That'll be literally just put it on and then smooth it across with either my finger or a tool or something, just to sort of seal that gap, and it will do it. And then another piece of brick paper over each of these columns there and also there will just smooth that out and make it look a little bit more natural, if you like. So that will work. Considering to leave the string cords with the gap. Again, I'm not sure at the moment. I might do. I'll have a think. Another issue that I've come across is this distance from here to here, because obviously I need 2 lanes of traffic here and 3 lanes just here. One bus at the bus stop with another bus being able to pass comfortably, and this bit here will be a regular road. So obviously all sorts of vehicles have got to come down there, lorries included, and have space for a bus to pull in at a bus stop. Not sure whether to go with a bus lane or to have a series of lay-bys in there at the moment, but it will work. You might say to me, well, I've got this space here, and why don't I just come in this way a little bit more? Well, the reason being, I want it to be open and airy. Now, if you look at the real Piccadilly Gardens, there's trees, and I am going to put those in, but they add to the open and airy feel. They're not going to be dense trees. They're going to be light, open trees. So they're going to go in the middle of 2 bus shelters and also in the middle of the pavement. Now, that pavement is going to be quite narrow. Probably more narrow than I actually wanted it to be, but nevertheless it will help to give this airy feel to both of these sections. I don't want Station Approach to be all cramped. Okay, anyway, I think I'm going to leave the video there, and I hope you've enjoyed it, and I will catch you very, very soon. The point video is coming, but I did kind of get a little bit sort of caught up with this. It's taken a long time to cover all these. As you can appreciate, it took me 3 days to cover all those. But anyway, we're getting there bit by bit by bit by bit. All right, catch you soon. Bye for now.